So there's a subject that's obviously the most important subject to discuss, is removed and only sort of flitted upon and suggested, but it's so taboo that people don't even want to open up the entire field of operation that reaches into the CIA, reaches into remote viewing. It's kind of like, where's this all going? That's the question, right? Like, where's this all going? Like, that's really fine and dandy. Those are interesting concepts of metaphysics. And then the sex becomes the topic in the next room, the topic of conversation in the next room, that only a few continue on to talk about. And it probably happened biblically. Definitely happened with the whole thelemic sex magic, where Aleister Crowley was just going in there in the most pragmatic, empirical way and saying, this is evidential, right? So CERN, I mean, when you're talking about exciting submolecular structures, right? When you're talking about infusing and coupling, when you're talking about a catharsis, a parasitism, when you're talking about this metanoia and this display and the combining of the liminal world, the dreams and the aphorisms, and the conjecture, the philosophical conjectures, and the hues and colors and light and wave patterns and sounds, that all takes place, and the baby crying and death and life and rebirth, that's all sex. And people are smart to stay not only away from the topic, but to skirt around it. And even all the saying, skirting around it, and it's it goes back to the Masonic order. It goes back to the Black Lodge. It's the uncomfortable truth. It's samsara. It's how we get here. It's how we get here over and over again. I guess what I'm saying is, you have to critically think about this as critically as possible before it envelops you and sweeps you up. Because when you give it, the consciousness, attention, and that's the thing about Nathaniel Gillis' work, is that he'll touch on that, but then he'll be like, well, this needs to be G-rated, this needs to be, and it's digestible, but then it leaves you, right? And I think that's why Robert Bigelow backed away. I don't talk about this much either, but there's a dark night of the soul. There's a dark side of us. There's a dark shadow self. Has nothing to do with your looks, a little bit, because in that smile, in the inference of who you are, in the even hidden projection of the shadow self, there you'll see it, an imprint of a sexual identity that is undeniable, that doesn't even need to take up a specific space in you, but it is part of a matrix, a construction, and an order that lies latent. And it is just balls out, literally, a transgression and an evolution that cannot be denied. I want to talk about this more because it's an extremely important topic, but we got to get some coffee.
Morning. Can I get you started off with anything to eat today?
Good morning. Yes, I'd like to order a tall, hot Americano, please.
Okay, any cream or sugar?
A small amount of steamed heavy cream.
Okay.
And if I could ask for like a grande ice water, that'd be awesome.
Yeah. Was there anything else I can get for you?
That's it for today.
Awesome. See you up here for $3.95.
All right, thank you, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, and this really isn't a subject you talk about, but it bridges over between these covert operations with the FBI, the CIA, globalist agenda, banking system, sociology. It's everywhere. It's all the time. And it is that other side to religion and religiosity. It is the thing missing. It is the active force, like, why does it drop off where it's like Jesus kissed Mary on the lips and then boom, right? It's gone. And that these practitioners and the numbering system, the grouping. So, in essence, I've known Wiccans. I knew a male Wiccan, and he was like, "Oh, I got released from it into Christianity, and I'll never touch that again." I remember how dark he was, but I remember all these females that were also surrounding him and surrounding him at that time. In his dark van, doing dark things, dark activities, But the main key takeaway, the walkaway, is that there is another force, another entity, and even more so, many people think they feel more alive when they're, in the process of sexual activity, or like I say, sort of a paroxysm or a cathartic response in orgasm, right? And when you say these words, it's like people cringe, right? And that whole word cringe, it's like there is a protective mechanism that's based around the avoidance of this, but then the rule and that factor constantly being in play.
How's it going?
Hey, how's it going, man?
Good. Perfect.
Yeah, thank you.
Got that cup of water right here.
Oh, thank you, man.
I think they're just finishing up the Americano.
Okay, yeah, no problem. Thank you, man. $2 today. They always do a good job. Tip service people, it's important. Okay.
marathon or
Thank you, man. Yeah, see you next time.
Yeah, of course.
Appreciate you guys over here. Yeah, good attitudes.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Yeah, you know, so Brian Johnson is of hot debate. When I walked away from this whole anti-aging thing about 10 plus years ago, there was a force. There was an entity. There was something that wanted me to be master, slave, sex god, or at least see myself like this, right? And it's the hidden side of philosophy. Kurt Jamungal, dude, and Alan Greenfield. You guys talk around it. What, you buy the book in order to buy the flavor? And it is running the country. It is running the world. It is the power behind all systems. Nothing runs without it, because we all come from vaginas. I mean, let's, you know, like there's that joke of people who eat meat, you know, and that it has to come from, right? And the daunting it's not a realization, okay? It's a I don't know, you know, I'm sure that there are many occult words that would best describe this type of thing, this type of activity. And it's something that has to be investigated, but it tends to control and envelop people and suck them up as they begin to investigate it, you know? It's like an alcoholic working in a bar who can't afford a drink and is going through withdrawals. It's like the fat person at the salad bar and it says free food of any kind 10 feet away. Unlimited free food. Of course it's a lie. Of course there is a cost to everything. And there is power in the avoidance of allowing the power it to take control of you. That's what makes someone a practitioner. There is a timing. That's why they call it, you know, the rhythm technique or whatever. It's what brings people together. It's the hidden voice. You may say females are much more tapped into this than males are, simply because they that there is a compliant role, obviously, and that becomes more evident in the sexual act, right? Because then there's the realization, and there's certain glands, there's glandular systems, there's the skein gland. And when you tap into this sort of matrix, everything lights up. And the power, you feel the surge of power, the release of power, the loss of power, the gaining of power. And then you want to go into this place. That's what we're getting at here. Bear with me. Where there's the there's these studies with the release of dopamine, and what am I trying to think of? And there's a hormone reaction in the animal kingdom. People, like, what really separates people from animals? What is it? What have we developed and cultivated? What has led to all these groundbreaking ideas and really this telomere honing system that is man, modern man, to draw in and bring in a collectivity of information. And so what's been blocked is when a civilization understands this, isn't afraid of this, boldly asserts itself and says, we're gaining control of this. This thing had control of us. It led us along. It fed us information. It showed us structures and paintings and devices that through the sexual act, through the inspiration, through this culmination of alchemical mixtures, you walked away with something that was life impacting about life itself and the life that you're living. But I was trying to think oxytocin. And there's areas that are saturated. There's areas of our being, ourselves. There's motor neurons. You're not going to be able to tap into anti-aging. You're not going to be able to tap into the fountain of youth. And that's probably what the fountain of youth is referring to. It is probably, again, just another sexual innuendo if you want to stay on the surface. But if you want to go deep into it, these are all sexual suggestive sayings, and there's a whole hidden historicity. There's a whole hidden cryptic language. And there is a practitionership. So when you think this person is not attractive, this person is not intelligent, this person does not have any true artistic talent, what is it this person has? And, the whole term of certain je ne sais quoi, And it's like, we're talking about sex. We're talking about favoritism. We're talking about a country being able to survive and even thrive because the delegates of that country and those who became delegates were engaged in certain sexual acts, right? I mean, think about the Queen of Persia, right? Think about Persia. Think about the Zoroaster. Think about modern day Iraq. Think about Babylon. Think about what we're really talking about. Think about what the Kabbalah, what Madonna is really doing and was really doing, how these people rise to power, and undeniably how they see themselves in sequence from Jeff Bezos to Elon Musk. They're freaky. They have a freaky status. They're the children of freaky witches. What do you think witchcraft is? What do you think self-craft is? And then you lose the idea of the self. You lose it and you transform into something else. And then you begin to realize that you were always that, right? And the uncomfortableness doesn't go away. But the reasons behind everything, the laying of the bricks, the shapes of the buildings, you start to see how there is a leeway. Am I trying to recruit people toward this? No. It's so uncomfortable and so disgusting. Staying away from it is everything. But if you are to place value in what this is, you know, I just saw a brief clip with Brian Johnson, Kurt Jaimungal. Every time I see him on something, I'm so disappointed, and then I realize that this subject is trying to go deeper, and it has to go toward that, and he's the only go-to. But I was doing that years before, and I realized I had a choice before me. Was to continue on with that very selfish, self-based. You could act like it's research, like he acts like it's research, but then he puts up progress on his boners every day on his page. I just had to unsubscribe to that guy, you know. I guess what I'm saying is there's an army being built, and there's these avatars being made, and there's these beings that gotta have their sex, and they want to transform and enter and further evolve the human body. And then there's this sort of, you see it in every single movie, you see it in every kid's movie, when they talk about imagination and they do the fighting and all this stuff. You could easily make a very epic porn out of that was so well, you only call it porn because it's like that's the main premise, the main theme of the whole thing. And I mean, like a production like Conan the Barbarian or the Beastmaster or something, and say, okay, what's hidden? You got this dude, this jack dude with these huge muscles, and you know, there's the inference of some sexual suggested activity, and you know, people are watching, they want more, and it's like, once you go into the more, it's a process that we all know, that we're afraid of, again, delving into, of looking right at the eye to eye, face to face with this whole thing. It lays itself out, literally. It becomes itself. It patternizes itself. It doesn't. It's like just add water, and we're all avoiding it because it is so powerful and so uncomfortable. And it is the red right, you know. Like, how do you think that these rituals come to be? And you can't talk about it when a door is open. Yet everybody's here because of it. And you better believe that elixirs, that alcohol, is the mere suggestion, these potions, the perfume. You're talking about magic. And when you talk about magic, when you think about magic, you have to think about process and outcome. So you might wonder, where does rationalism fit into all this? Why, you know, and it's like the highest possible pi-based mathematics, the highest of principle, detail, and orientation. You know, the most progressive and detail-oriented and beautiful artwork. Right? The most beautiful expression in dance and language development. Right? And it's what's missing. It's the missing ingredient. It's like combining everything and then not having any flavor, and when you finally taste the flavor, It's like this stereo amplification just goes through you, right? So is there something more? And that's what we're getting at, right? I believe that there is. I believe that there is a transcendence. I believe that there is an entire narrative that is being blocked that has to do with purity, purification, and working past these certain Mandelbrot subsets, if you will, through the spherical solution, through the maze, if you will. We know that sex practitionership, ultimately it seems to lead to this evolution and this release, but it only leads back to further samsara and desperation. So what is it that we are supposed to be evolving into? That's the biggest question. And it's above and beyond what low-level practitioners, like, there's a big divide, a big difference between somebody who has reached the top of, say, a thelemic subset system and somebody who is actually transcended. I believe that you cannot transcend. Brian Johnson is stuck in an age-old, like, you have to start breaking out Dorian Gray and Peter Pan on Brian Johnson. You have to start looking philosophically and saying, dude, you weren't the high school hero. You look like a Jewish teenage girl. I'm sorry, I gotta say it. You hide behind projects and technology and that you're helping people, but in the end, all you are is the aberrant display of ego, the worst part of us, the shadow self, the self that says you can't transcend beyond this. You're not capable. Not one aspect of you can transcend. Not one aspect is worthy. What do you think's going to happen? You're going to get washed away. The only thing you have is your own personal power, right? Now look at what happened to Michel Foucault. See, Brian Johnson's just a little rock skimming on the surface, trying to act like he's kind of like this redneck, but you can see the pervading energy underneath him, And it is not a male energy. Males don't try to reach into the pond and view their narcissistic reflections. He is a complete and total narcissist, and he will be remade up as a narcissist because he is reflecting off the chiral positioning of the entire. I think that's why Kurt Jaimungal, Tucker Carlson, just had to interview this guy, because it brings about what I'm talking about, which is the postulation. Still, I am not going deep on this, but I have experience in it. I actually went to the other side and I came back here. I'm here. Your hair will turn white, I'll tell you that much, Brian Johnson. Like, once you reach that cathartic parasitism, once you reach that, dude, and you are not above, and that's the thing about the thelema and the practice and the practitionership of this. Once you reach into it, once you look at it, once you go there, you will never be able to come back in this lifetime. The transcendence has begun. Yeah, like, how should I end this? Because I'd like to say that I saw the light, but it's actually, and that's probably a good display, but there is a transcendence away from the human form, away from the human body. How long could you keep it off? You're talking about the Sumerian text. Do you think that there's a difference, is what I'm saying, between what Brian Johnson's doing and quote unquote modernity and what